There's this paradox that I've been sitting with, and maybe you'll relate to it if you ever felt like time just isn't on your side, especially when you are stepping into your creative power or when you feel the urge to build something meaningful and somehow the timing never lines up. It's disorienting. Because on one hand, you know you have agency, you have clarity, discernment, language. You can name what's happening in you and around you. But on the other hand, there's this larger current, this collective flow that you can't steer. Or maybe you are steering it through your awareness, but you can't actually control where it goes. And that's the paradox. You can and can't at the same time. And this creates a burden. Awareness itself brings responsibility. When you can name what you're seeing, when you have the clarity, it's not neutral anymore. You are now responsible for it. But that responsibility can feel like a burden, especially when there's no clear reflection around you to support it. You can have all the tools, all the somatic grounding, all the clarity, but when the flow isn't supporting you in practical ways, like finances, housing, stability, responsibility starts to feel real heavy. And it pinches a raw nerve in your body, and that's timing. Timing is the wound, and timing is also the salve. Think about that. There's this old saying that says, timing heals all wounds. But what if timing itself is both the wound and the salve? When the flow arrives late, when the bills are due, when the provision doesn't match the container you built for yourself, that's the wound. But when it lines up, when the support arrives right on time, that's the healing. Same force, two faces. And that's what's also disorienting about this. You don't get to choose when something feels manageable and when it doesn't. Awareness doesn't give you conscious power over the tide. It just gives you the capacity to live inside the swing of it. Are you following me? Now, let's talk about provision, because this is another layer of the paradox. Being provided for is a gift, but it can also carry the grief. I'll speak personally. I'm currently in borrowed space. My basic needs are met, yes, and on paper that's a blessing, but it's not my preferred space. My preference is to have my own home, to curate my own energy, to not have to explain myself in environments where people don't fully see my full vision. So yes, provision is there, but when it doesn't match the preference, that hurts. And that's also the paradox. Provision can be both supporting you and grieving you at the same time. The backwardness of this is when you are crystal clear on what you prefer, chances of it being met are slim. But when you're vague, you're unclear, or you're open-ended, provision tends to show up more easily, but it's not always in the form that you choose. For example, I got this friend who went through this exact thing in dating. For years, they had this crystal clear picture of the kind of partner they wanted: shared values, emotional intelligence, deep presence, and a certain way of showing up in the relationship. They weren't asking for anything unrealistic, but they were clear. And what happened was that almost nobody they met lived up to that clarity. It was like the clearer they got, the smaller the pool became, and the more discouraged they felt by that. But then when they shifted and just told themselves, okay, let me just be more open, let me see who's out there without being so precise about my standards. And then suddenly they were meeting people left and right. Coffee dates, good conversations, fun interactions. The flow was abundant, but none of those people actually matched the depth of what they had named within themselves. So they were caught in a paradox. Clarity gave them alignment, but very little flow, while openness gave them flow, but very little alignment. And that tension itself became its own kind of grief. And that's frustrating as hell. Because clarity should empower you. But instead, it often feels like clarity narrows the flow while vagueness leaves you more resourced but less satisfied. I got a friend from college who just became a single parent of toddler twins, and she's probably watching this. And if you've ever been around two toddlers at the same time, you know it's nonstop. Laughter, chaos, mess, affection, tantrums all roll into one. And for her, parenting is this constant paradox. On one hand, she'll tell me it's more joyful. It's the most joyful thing that she's ever experienced. Watching her kids discover new words, seeing them laugh at something silly, those little arms wrapping around their neck. But in the same breath, she'll admit it's exhausting. There are days when both the kids are crying at once, when they can't get 5 minutes of quiet, and when the dishes pile up and she feels like she's drowning. And what I've watched is that her strength isn't in trying to always feel happy or trying to spin everything into positive, gentle parenting. Her strength is in capacity. The ability to hold both the joy and the frustration at the same time, to love her kids deeply while admitting she's overwhelmed. So, what do we all actually want here? It's not satisfaction, it's not relief, because those things are fleeting and they keep you stuck in binaries of happy or sad, good or bad, aligned or misaligned. What you actually want is capacity. The ability to hold both the relief and the grief, the provision and the lack, the clarity and the paradox without collapsing or bypassing. Capacity is what allows you to keep creating even when the odds aren't ideal. I know a few creative entrepreneurs right now who are basically freestyling just to keep their vision alive. They've risked everything, time, savings, relationships, to build something new. And the audacity to even try in this climate is both their gift and their burden. Because on one side, they're doing exactly what they've been called to do. They're building businesses, platforms, creative projects that no one else would dare attempt. They're living in their truth. But on the other side, their nervous systems are maxed out. The media keeps hitting us with these constant drumbeats of fear about the economy, inflation, instability, while at the same time feeding us this empty hope on a stick, pointing to celebrity privilege as if that's accessible to everyone. So these entrepreneurs, and if you were one watching this, who feel stuck in the middle, risking it all, feeling the pain of instability, and yet still carrying the gift of audacity, that's where creativity comes in. Creativity itself is a paradox. It's both a gift and a burden. It's the freestyle inside of the larger container. And the truth of the matter is, even the ability to freestyle is evidence of a container. But in the binary world that we live in, freestyling is treated like a luxury. You only get to do it if you're supported in some way. But for many of us, freestyling is survival right now. Cultivating the space to create takes work, risk, and audacity. That audacity itself becomes both the medicine and the burden. So if you're feeling like time isn't on your side, or that your creative urges don't fit into the timing of your life, please know this. It's not a personal failure. It's systemic. You're not behind and you're not ahead. You are hovering like all of us are. We're all sharing the same spectrum of events together. And the grief you feel is not something to bypass. It's part of the paradox. Timing will always be both the wound and the salve. Provision will always be both the gift and the grief, and clarity will always be both the risk and the reward. The work isn't to escape the paradox. The work is to let the paradox build your capacity. And here's part of the thing that's overlooked with the rewards of that. When capacity expands, you stop wasting your energy arguing and fighting about trivial things. You stop getting pulled into the fear-mongering, the rage baiting, and the endless gender orientation political battles the media keeps feeding you, because your engagement is what keeps those things alive. And when your nervous system simply can't hold those things anymore, in other words, when you've outgrown the binary battles and they don't fit into your capacity anymore, they lose their relevance. They stop mattering. That's the creative independence paradox gives you. The ability to stay rooted in what's clear and clean instead of being pulled into what's messy and loud. And from that place, you can create with more clarity, more integrity, and more presence than you ever could by chasing relief or arguing with shadows. Because paradox doesn't just stretch you. It saves you from giving your energy to the things that keep mishandling and misusing you. For deeper dives into these kinds of topics and the systems that are influencing our lives here, feel free to explore my essays and ebook and audiobook bundles at my bookstore at the link that's in the caption. And if anything resonates here, please reflect in the comments section below. Subscribe if you are not already. Like and share with someone who may benefit from this. And in the meantime and in between time, please be kind and gentle with yourself and make the best of this right now moment and the right now moments to come.